Tonya Hofmann's fabulous. Tonya Hofmann's fabulous. Tonya Hofmann's fabulous, fabulous TV show. Tonya.
Hello, everyone. Oh, boy. Oh, we're going to have such a fabulous show today. Thank you for joining us again. I'm here with Caroline next to me to say hello, Caroline.
Hi.
She is going to tinkle your toes and make your fingernails go wee because she is amazing. She's got so much incredible information. I can't wait for her to get started. And I wanted to remind everybody to stick around to the end of the show because she's giving away an amazing contest. I love contests, don't you? I'm like, oh, I want to win. I did a contest the other day. I was speaking at the International Virtual Assistants Association. And I gave away a contest, and all these people were entering and everything, and it was so much exciting. And then I pulled the drawing, and it was this lovely lady, and I sent her an email to let her know she won, and she was just like, "You've got to be joking." She goes, "That means I've got to start doing things now."
Yeah. Yeah.
So always look, if I win, that means the universe is telling me I got to do something. I want to also remind people too that it's today, not tomorrow, today, that you move forward with your life. Stop waiting. I know this is the phrase that I can't stand more than anything. Tonya, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And I'm like, when? When are you going to be ready? You're only ready when you do it. So the only way you'll ever be ready is just get out there and do it. I don't care how scary it is. I don't care if you feel like you're not prepared. Who is? I've talked to millionaires. I've talked to billionaires. I've talked to famous people, and they all have that same fear. We all start out not knowing how to do something or not doing it right or whatever. Nobody is judging you except for yourself. So stop being so critical and get out of your own way. So I'm really excited to find out about Caroline Velez Yang. What a fabulous name. It's like a whole sentence going on and on and on. Right? And
Yeah.
it's so funny because my husband, he's like, what are these women with all these names? You know, and I'm like, well, it's you men that do these things to us usually. But she used to be a chemical engineer. Wow. And she turned into this amazing, fabulous person who talks about communications and thinking on your feet. And she speaks everywhere. You're going to be about to be blown away. But first, we want to ask her, how did you change your world? What was the moment that, or just kind of the progression on how you went, especially from a chemical engineer to someone who's out there running around speaking?
Well, background being chemical engineering, like obviously I start up the manufacturing plants. So a lot of times I live in a trailer. I'm the girl with the hard hat on and then going out in the field with over 150 guys and making sure to get assignments done. And over time, as I got sent to overseas projects, I've learned that communication's important. What I also learned is when I'm in a foreign country, communication is even more important because you got to get your point across even clearer in less words. So being in Vietnam, I learned that it's like I needed to figure out how to communicate with them with less English words, but like right on the spot that they understand what's going on. And another learning that I've had about communication is that when I was in college, I remember I had a lot of really smart colleagues and engineering classmates. However, they were not good at interviewing. They were not good at presenting themselves. And they basically wouldn't make it past the first interview round because they were stuttering. There were a lot of ums and ahs. They were just not good storytellers. And I felt really bad because these were really talented and capable engineers who could not get the opportunities just simply because they didn't have good, presentation skills. And what really hit it home run is when I was trying to help my brother. Now, my brother, he always stutters and gets nervous during presentations. And later on, he's diagnosed that he had ADHD. So it was just like part of how he couldn't organize his thoughts together. He would always ramble. And the more he rambled, the more nervous he got. And I felt really, really bad for him because he would always get turned down for opportunities. And his dream was, to become a child psychiatrist. And that obviously would have to go through many rounds of interviews. So what I started doing was to collect notes I got, from like these leaders that I've met internationally and talk to them. How do they respond on that? Think on the spot, right? Like, how do you respond when somebody asks you a question and you're feeling a lot of pressure and stress? Because that's when we don't feel like we're ourselves. That's when we're, nervous, you feel like you're being judged and you're afraid, you don't know how you want to respond. And like, how do you respond to that? So I started studying like how, these leaders responded to these crucial questions in Brazil and Japan, and Germany. And then I started noticing a pattern on how they put their thoughts together, and I organized them into frameworks. So that's how I came up and developed with this think on your feet and think on the spot, communication training.
Wow. I see this all the time because I do quite a bit with job clubs, with people that are trying to get jobs again. And you can see that communication skills have just disappeared. If they had it ever, it wasn't there anymore. Or even people that are entrepreneurs, they've got to go have coffee with someone and explain why someone should buy their products or services. And they can't do it. A lot of it, they can't listen, right? A lot of it is a listening skill to find out what the person's actually interested in, but it's also communicating the message clearly.
Yes.
So when you look at, all your fabulous friends that you had, do you find also there's like two camps of people that just can't even get the words out, and the people that speak so fast because they're so nervous and they can't stop? And then you can't understand what they're saying.
Yeah, and then they have a lot of rich content information, but oftentimes you'll just hear so much information you can't even digest it all. And then you only remember a little bit of this, something about Minnesota, liking fishing, and then you still don't remember who they are, and it's sad.
This is the hardest thing for me because I would get nervous and I would just like, blah, 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 and you thought, well, the faster I talk, the sooner it'll be over. But it doesn't really work that way.
Yes.
And especially if you're talking with a group that English is not their second language, or is their second language, or a group that you're really trying to get something across clearly, especially step-by-step processes or something, you have to slow it down so that they can grasp every word. And this was so hard for me. Do you find that it's usually hard for people?
Well, Tonya, like you speak so fast sometimes that yes, I can see how it would be a challenge for you. But I think that a lot of people I guess they're thinking as they're speaking, so then it's difficult for them to get their points across. And then when they start getting nervous, then they, like you said, they just want to kind of run it through and just get it over with, because they're just like that spotlight on them. They just feel the heat, the intensity, they're nervous, and then they just want, get that sweat off their face. So they try to, go through it really fast, but then it comes across as rambling. And then what they forget about is when you're speaking and you're talking to stakeholders, in the stakeholder meeting, you're trying to build a connection. It's not really about a perfect presentation. They're not really judging you how many ums and ahs you have. It's not a Toastmasters meeting. They want to understand who you are, where you're coming from, and what your thoughts are. And people forget you're trying to build that, communication and that conversation right there. And that's why I try to remind people that, you don't have to be like a perfect speaker, perfect presenter. Like you are your own messenger though. So what you are is you're just conveying your own message. So, take out all that pressure, that inner voice or inner critic that keeps, giving yourself like all these critiques in your head. Yeah.
I know for me, because this is slowed down for me, you know, I'd be like, blah, you know, and, you know, especially when I first started speaking, because I was so overwhelmed, because coming as an introvert, you know, I'm a recovering introvert right now.
Really?
Yeah, I
Wow. I
know.
can't
People are
believe
like,
that. I can't believe that.
I'll have to
You
show
talk
everyone.
so fast.
I know, right? So when I would just speed it up and then try to shove in as much as possible. And this is what I see a lot of people do when they first start speaking professionally or wanting to get out there and speak professionally is, you know, they try to go, okay, I've got to prove that I'm worthy of this information. I've got to prove to my audience that I know everything. So I'm about to overwhelm them with so much data that they'll want to hire me, or they'll want to talk to me, and it does the opposite effect.
Yes, yes. And I've come across this when I was helping like the stand-up comedian, and she was traveling to somewhere in Africa to present, you know, like her, you know, her top comedy, you know, gig and all that. And she says that she remembers cold sweat running when she, you know, she had her first joke, and then nobody laughed at all. And it's just, she got like really, really nervous. And then so she basically pulled out ahead of time before she was ready her second big joke. And so embarrassed with herself, is trying to figure out what went wrong. So she discussed it with her friend. She says, you know, I pulled out, you know, these top stories. I always get last. I don't know what happened. And then her friends asked her, like, were you talking at the speed that you're talking to me right now? And she said, yeah. I was talking, yeah, like how we speak, you know, like how I usually speak. You know, I got faster as I got more nervous. And he says, well, that's your problem, is that you need to understand that, so, you know, you need to go at a slower pace so people can follow along and digest those thoughts. It's not just about you, you know, getting your story out as soon as you can anymore. It's about them being able to digest and follow through and be part of that story and part of that scene so they can follow you. And that's where the laughs and all that will come from.
Nice.
Yes.
So I know you have great tips. So you always want to go out and change the world. So can you give us some tips, techniques for the audience today?
Sure. A lot of my clients, they say that they are afraid of having those ums and ahs, and that's what gets them really anxious. So what I tell them is that, first of all, as I said, like, you know, you're not going to be judged on how many ums and ahs, like it comes across every once in a while when you're thinking, but what you can do is start to elongate your sentences. So rather than trying to say that, you know, I'm helping a lot of career ambitious professionals overcome their challenges, and so you would basically elongate your words so that you would give yourself some time to pause and think about what you're coming up with next, and say, you know, I'm committed to guiding career ambitious professionals overcome speaking anxiety and develop their authentic voice. So as you slow down and elongate your words, you don't have those gaps. And those are the gaps where we end up putting our filler words. And then you don't have that tendency to put into ums and ahs. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, I call the power of three. Oftentimes we give a lot of information and people can't remember them all. Even if you have 5 great tips, 7 great tips, just choose 3, because that's all we're going to remember. Why is 3 good? It's persuasive. There's rhythm to it. It's how we grew up learning, like the 3 little bears, and it's just how we get a story, you know, the beginning, the middle, the end, red light, yellow light, green light. It's how we're culturally and our brain like things. So it's very easy for people to remember 3 points, and if you have the 4th point, they might forget. So that's the power of 3. Every question that you answer, just think of 3 points that you want to come across, and that will keep you, I guess, less anxiety for you to explain more, and also it will make it easier for the receiving end to remember like the key points you talked about. The third thing I'd like to share is one of my frameworks from Think on Your Feet Speaking. So the idea of these frameworks is that when we're trying to organize our thoughts, we want it to come across clearly And so having a framework in place, it's like a template. Like when you're doing behavioral interviews, there's the STAR framework, the situation, task, action, results. But the STAR framework only works for behavioral questions. So the framework I came up with is applicable to any other type of questions that you come across. And it can be conversations when you're in stakeholder meetings, giving presentations. It takes out that big anxiety of feeling that you have to be prepared for these high stakeholder meetings. And so the first framework that I'm going to share with is the clock plan. The clock plan is basically going in a sequence of order of the time of how things happen. So when you're in a board meeting and the financial director is asking you, how did we do recently, and you would basically pull out your data. It's like, okay, well, 3 months ago we were here, and then currently our gross margins are like where they are now, and then 3 month forecast out it's going to be in this era. So it helps tie in your whole story into 3 really good key points, and then keeps the focus on a timeline. And then the people who are listening, it's very organized, and for you as a professional, it comes across very clear and concise, that they think like, wow, that message was clear, concise. You must, think clearly, think fast, because, the message is also clear too. It's also a reflection of how we think as well. So
Wow.
those are, the three points. Like don't worry about the ums and ahs, but if you are in a situation, you feel pressure, just elongate, your words. And then a second one, just choose 3 points. That's it. It just has to be 3, and then go in a time clock sequence.
Love every single one of those. I think what happens to a lot of people is they try to, like we said, put too much data in, and complicate things.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when they're complicating things and they're putting so much in, they're trying to remember everything. So they start to chop everything up, which starts getting into a lot of the ums and, I can't remember the next thing because they were trying to put too much in. So if you eliminate all of that, it eliminates all of the real big issues.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, less is more in this case, and then keeping it simple really helps these days. Yeah,
the KISS method, I believe in it wholeheartedly.
Keep it KISS. I do love the KISS method. Yes,
right?
yes.
Keep it simple. We won't say stupid.
Yeah.
It's like there's a gentleman that I know. He's amazing. He's a health person. He's probably the healthiest person I ever met, and he's nicely built too, so that always helps. And he is so adorable, but when he gets up, you literally within a couple of seconds, you don't know what he's talking about, and you don't care what he's talking about, because he's trying to push in all this data. You've got to do this and this and this, and then you grab a word and you're like, oh, asparagus helps with brain, and you're like, why didn't you just go over asparagus for like 30 minutes? That would have been totally fine.
Yeah. Yep. I could totally see that. Yeah, it's also sometimes when we're excited, we just tend to just talk about like you're always in a high mood, Tonya. So you've got that rhythm. It's always going on and all that, and we don't realize that some people, they need time to process, right? So they're you're already on to the next story and they're still processing the previous one. And what's a lot of times I tell people, what, in conversation, speaking is supposed to be fun, right? So whenever people say they're afraid to go on stage and all that, you think about, this is supposed to be so much fun. You're connecting with people, you're sharing your story, and once they get past that anxiety point, it's so much more fun. Yeah, when you enjoy it.
Exactly. And if you look at what gets people really flustered, so they're trying not to ever say you probably will at some point in your presentation. And you got to be okay, and some people get so flustered. Oh my God, I just said, really, it's okay. Keep moving.
Yes. I know high-level directors and C-suite people who still have an every once in a while, and it's okay. We don't remember them for that.
Well, and it's funny because as you do it more, you just get used to things. For me, I use my hands a lot. And so I learned that I usually have a microphone in one hand because you can't wail around a microphone. And I usually have a clicker in the other one. So I keep myself, and you just learn different things to help yourself not flare as much, or whatever your technique is that you need to calm down, you know. Same thing with, I didn't realize I touch my hair like all the time. And I don't do it as much now, even though I'm sure y'all have seen me do it several times. It's just one of those things. There's something that we do. Like, don't give me a pen in my hand. It'd be like click, click, click. You know, we just have something that drives people crazy. And so someone mentioned that one time. I was, talking. I was, talking in front of a group, and I just went and, pushed my hair out of my face. And the lady next to me, she goes, "Tonya, if you touch your hair one more time, I'm going to scream." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I don't touch my hair." And then all of a sudden I kept seeing my hands coming to my face. I'm like, what am I doing?
It's a natural thing.
So,
yeah.
Get some, people to help you too, because a lot of times you can't even see what you do.
Yes, getting that feedback is important. And then sometimes it contradicts what people just say, just be yourself, just be yourself. And you feel like, yeah, I am myself. This is what I'm like when I'm nervous.
Yeah,
it's tough. I don't know what that advice is about. Just be yourself. Just be yourself.
Well, and when I first started speaking, I was like, oh, how could I ever be a speaker? Because I actually have a speech impediment. And so it comes out usually when I'm tired, and if I've been speaking for a long time, it comes out. It's kind of like dyslexia, but it happens in my head and through my speech. Anyways, and I thought, how could I be a big speaker with this problem? And then I can't seem to slow down. I'm always saying, And then I watched a couple unedited videos of Ziegler and Tony Robbins and all these $1 million speakers. And they all did everything I was worried about. They said, they mixed up their words. They used the wrong words. They, forget what they're going to say next. They get sidetracked. They all do it. And it makes them more relatable. Now, you don't want to do it too much. And that's what we're talking about here is every other sentence. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, because you're thinking as it's going through. But in the end, we're all human. And, I mean, speaking, it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be like you're talking to a friend and all that. Like, I think sometimes we got that inner voice in our head that's just constantly judging ourselves. We really shouldn't have to.
Well, and that's the hardest thing too, because you're thinking that you've got all these eyes on you and that they're judging you. And really the harshest judge is yourself. So people are just there to get to know you, hear what you have to say. That's all they're there for. And those who judge and are being critical, they're not your peeps anyways. Who cares what they think, And this was the hardest thing for me to get through was, I'd walk in and I would inevitably find the person who didn't like me, right? They'd be like sitting with their arms crossed and they're like, "Tonya, I'm not going to listen," and they're like, they got their little scrunchy face on. And I'd be like, "Oh, why don't they like me? What's wrong?" What's there not to like? And it was so hard, especially for women. We want everyone to like us. And then one day, right, I saw this guy. He had this scrunchy face. And I happened to look over, and I was starting to get all flustered. Oh, and there was this lady. She's smiling, and she's taking notes and everything. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. I'm focused on the negative person instead of the positive person. I'm focused on those who won't ever hire me, and not focusing on the people that will. I'm focusing on the wrong set of people. And so 20% of the people usually in the group, wherever you're speaking, just doesn't like you. And they just really don't care what you have to say. Stop focusing on them. Who cares about them? Because one of the things I realized is I meet these people. I don't like them either. So why do I care what they think? So I started focusing on the positive people, these amazing people with this incredible information that they are wanting to give me and I can give them. They're wanting to go further with me and then I could go further with them. What a win-win. So y'all stop focusing on the negatives and get that person out of your head because that's not good.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for that tip, Tonya. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind because it's easy to get distracted. You're looking across all these people. I don't know if you look at, a certain group area, but when you see that person frowning or playing on their cell phone, yeah, it does get distracting. And you start to wonder, is my talk not interesting? Like, why are you doing this? and starting down yourself.
Well, and especially nowadays, I like it when I see people on their cell phones, which is weird because a lot of times they're taking pictures and posting it on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. And so you can't judge nowadays if they're on their tablet, you know, or they're, you know, you don't know really what they're doing. And so I always put in mind, oh, good, they're tweeting about me. Yay!
Yeah, it's all in our thoughts. So, yep. It's all in our thought how we want to respond. Yeah.
Like, cares, you know? And one of the things that cracked me up is I met this lovely, I mean, we're sisters as soon as we met. And then I started my presentation, and she got this face on, and she looked like she was so upset, and she was writing something down, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this woman can't stand what I'm saying. I mean, it was overwhelming. And then afterwards, she comes running over to me. She goes, oh my gosh, that was amazing. And I realized that was just her thinking face. She has a really horrible thinking face, but
wow.
Everybody thinks and does and reacts to things differently. So don't stop taking things so personally.
Yeah. We really have to believe that people who are listening, they're out there rooting for you. They want you to do, you know, well, like they're there cheering for you, and they're cheerleaders for you. Yeah.
Exactly. So I know you have a contest for our listeners. What is that?
I am trying to get my Think on the Spot training rolled out. And I enjoy hearing people's transformations on how they benefited from it. So I'm rolling out a contest and encouraging people to share their fear stories. Like, when was a moment they were on the hot seat and they couldn't think, or they had an embarrassing moment and they felt that they totally, you know, lost their train of thought. And so I like them to submit, you know, their fear story. And with that, they will have a chance to win full access to my live webinar training for a Think on the Spot training. And they will learn all 8 of my frameworks. And I would love to hear like how it has helped, you know, transform and change and help them, you know, for future conversations or whatever presentations they have coming up. Yeah. So that's the contest I got rolling out.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh my gosh. So how do they sign up for this?
Go to my website, carolinevelezYang.com, and there's a contest tab, and all you got to do is submit your story.
Awesome. So say it very slow.
Okay. It's Caroline, Caroline, Velez, VeleZYang.com. Caroline
Velez Yang. So make sure you go there, hit the contest tab, and sign up. And it's always fun to reminisce on things that have happened. You know, I've had so many faux pas, it's ridiculous. You know, we all go through that. I actually won one of the biggest awards out there, the eWomen Network's Business Matchmaker of the Year Award in 2000.
I saw that. Yeah, congrats.
And this was out of 25,000 women. I did not expect to win. And when they said my name, I hadn't prepared anything because I saw the lineup of people that I was running against. And I was like, there is no way I could win, showing how, especially back then, I still devalued myself. Everyone else saw me somewhat differently, right? And so I went up on stage, couldn't think of anything to say, went over to the podium to say, well, you know, thank you. And this is what I said. All right, y'all ready for this? You talk about embarrassing. I couldn't think. My heart was pumping. I couldn't even hear anything anymore. It was like boom, 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 boom. And I said, I looked at the microphone, and that's the only thing I could think of. Oh my gosh, I love microphones. That's what I said in front of 3,000 people, 6,000 eyeballs. And I was like, oh my gosh, what did I just say? I was like, I can't believe I just said that. I was like, I would love to have one-on-ones with every one of you. Thank y'all so much. And I got out that stage. And what I realized is I fretted that whole conference about saying something so stupid on stage in front of those many people and winning a big award. And I could tell the lady was not happy when I went to get the award from her.
They come again.
It's like, this is a woman that we gave the award to? And what happened is every time I would say something to someone I knew at the conference, I'm like, oh my gosh, can you believe what I said? Every single time they're like, I don't remember what you said. I just remember how excited you were. And that's what we have.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great one. Yeah.
Right?
They just remember how you made them feel, right? They don't remember what you said. And yeah, like Angela and I would say, people don't remember what you said or what you did. They remember how you made them feel. And they saw you all jumping up and down, smiles.
Exactly. Make people feel great, inspire them, and the world is yours. So Caroline, thank you so much for being on today. I would love for you to come back.
Thank you so much, Tonya. It's been fun being here.
So make sure you go to her website, CarolineVelezYang.com, and sign up for a contest. Actually, also go to my website, Public Speakers with an S, association.com, and check out the Public Speakers Association. We would love to get you involved. You know, Caroline is a member of the association. It's all about connecting to amazing people like this, right? People that you need to know and build a real relationship with. So don't stay in your house any longer. Get out there, change the world from the front of the room. It's so much more fun. And you have a fantastic day. And we will see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.